Hello everyone, welcome from Frankfurt am Main, Germany to the comparison between the Canon EOS R and the Canon EOS R6. We tested these two cameras together with the Canon RF 50mm f1.2L, the RF 70 to 200mm f2.8, the RF 35mm 1.8 STM, so as the 24 to 105mm f4L lens. Thanks to the sponsor of this video, which is objektivvermietung.de. If you ever have the chance to visit Germany and you forgot your equipment at home, make sure to visit their website to rent these cameras from Munich. Make sure to follow me on Telegram, so as on Instagram. On Telegram, I will send you all the upcoming reviews way ahead before all the others see them on YouTube. Now with a comment function as well. So if you do have any further questions in there, you can send me a question straight away and you will get to see some example files way ahead of all the other ones. So all the best and enjoy now the upcoming comparison. Hello everyone. Today we have two full-frame cameras. The Canon EOS R6 is slightly bigger but weighs only 20 grams more than the old Canon EOS R, with its 660 grams including the battery. One of the biggest drawbacks of the Canon EOS R is its single card slot. If you're looking for a backup memory slot which allows you to take pictures on one memory card and videos on the other one, you need to purchase the Canon EOS R6. My favorite memory cards are listed in the video description below, so make sure to check them out. In December 2020, the Canon EOS R retails at about 1800 bucks, including the EF to RF lens adapter, while you need to spend almost 2700 bucks for the EOS R6. Now you spend some $100 more without getting a head display like you get on the Canon EOS R. Why? It will not be the last strange thing with this camera. The touch bar on the Canon EOS R was replaced with a thumb controller on the Canon EOS R6 and R5, which I do prefer since it personally destroyed my workflow a few times. I know it can be deactivated, but it would have been a better move to stick to the controller than trying out something which does not work using gloves. When I compared the EOS R5 with the Canon EOS R, I noticed that the display feels more like the one from the EOS 90D for 3,500 bucks less. Same with the Canon EOS R6. The one built into the Canon EOS R feels much better, more solid and has a higher resolution with 2.1 million dots than the 1.62 million pixel display that the EOS R6 uses. At least both electronic viewfinders have a high resolution with 3.7 million pixels. If you are looking for a faster workflow, I bet you will prefer the thumb wheel of the EOS R6 more than the push buttons on the Canon EOS R. Since the Canon EOS R5, Canon uses the powerful LPE6NH battery. The Canon EOS R still uses the LPE6N with less capacity. Luckily, you can use either battery for both cameras. Let's get straight into the most important topic, which is photography. Both cameras have an enormously good image quality. The main difference is the resolution. The Canon EOS R has a resolution of 30 megapixels and the Canon EOS R6 unfortunately only 20 megapixels. We will find out later whether the Canon EOS R6 has a better low-light performance as a result. My personal opinion, for 700 to 800 euros more in 2020, in brackets, only 20 megapixel is not that much. With 24 to 26, I would have said nothing. But as I said, if the low light performance is now a lot better, then the 20 megapixels may have a good reason to exist. The Canon EOS R6 can clearly score in terms of autofocus. You can shot out 20 frames per second using the electronic shutter, 12 with the mechanical shutter, and the EOS R only managed 8 frames per second. However, the frames per second deviate a bit with AF tracking. The Canon EOS R6 also offers the possibility to recognize animal faces. With a firmware update for the Canon EOS R from the last year, it also can track your eyes. In this test, the EOS R6 had the better face tracking for objects that moved faster. About the touch AF, it also depends a bit on the lens. But again, I'd say the Canon EOS R6 is the winner in this category. In terms of sharpness, I thought to myself, ho ho, the Canon EOS R wins. 10 megapixels make quite a difference. But I really have to admit that the pictures of both cameras look enormously sharp. The EOS R's shots offer a bit more details, but that's really marginal, despite the big difference in sensor resolution. If you want to see for yourself, you can download these pictures from the link in the video description. Now to the annoying part that I just don't want to understand. So in the year of birth, 2018, Canon introduced their Canon EOS R, advertised this camera with 4K recordings, which I personally like, but then with a crop factor of 1.78. Hey, that even makes sense if you work with telephoto lenses, but not if you want to use a wide-angle lens, which is then no longer a wide-angle lens. The reasoning is always the same. The amount of data is much too large, or the memory card could not process the data so quickly, blah blah blah. The Canon EOS R6 also manages 4K recordings without crop, with the same memory card, by the way, with a quite cheap one. Your smartphone has been able to do that for years, but it doesn't cost 2,000 euro yet. Well, depends a bit on the phone you're using. You could have also said that the crop factor is omitted when the memory card reaches a certain read-write speed, or simply install a better SD slot. An absolute no-go in my eyes. Even if now again someone arrives and says, but it is a photo camera. I do not need that. Well, your phone should only be able to make calls, but no. You can even shoot movies with it. The cameras are also getting better and better. You can even stream with your phone and do things that are going beyond the intentional purpose of your phone. Let's stay with the topic of video for a moment. Again, there's not much different at first except for the crop factor. But if you look closely, the Canon EOS R6 offers, for that fat surcharge, only half as many recording options as the Canon EOS R. The only advantage here is the autofocus in slow motion recordings, and that even in 1080p and not as with the Canon EOS R in 720p, without autofocus. So 720p and without autofocus was just ridiculous even for 2018. By the way, both cameras support C-Log for color grading and post-production.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm the internal microphone of the Canon EOS R6, filming with the RF 35mm f1.8, ISO 3200, and that's how the sound quality is like. Canon EOS R, same lens, same street, all in automatic audio recording, but the difference is that I'm now recording in 1080p since I don't like to have the crop factor.
The time-lapse movies are great using both full-frame cameras. Neither the EOS R nor the EOS R6 have a crop factor here. This means that you can even shoot time-lapse videos in 4K with the Canon EOS R without a crop. You can determine the number of shots, the interval, And those scenes significantly enhance your vacation after movies. Now it's time for some low light. The ISO limit of the Canon EOS R is 102,400 and that of the Canon EOS R6 204,800. You can find all of these shots at the very bottom of the video description. First, I find that the Canon EOS R illuminates much nicer than the Canon EOS R6. These are the same settings, same lens, same white balance. At ISO 6400, which I would take as a good average, the image looks much sharper and less noisy with the Canon EOS R. At ISO 25,600, you can see that quite clearly as well. At the maximum ISO of the Canon EOS R, the image looks much better than with the same ISO value on the Canon EOS R6. But it goes up to ISO 204,800 with the Canon EOS R6. Honestly, maybe something for detectives with f11 telephoto lenses, but these are ISO values at which probably the fewest really shoot. Now, what do you guys say about the results? Am I wrong? Or do you think that the Canon EOS R performs a bit better than the Canon EOS R6? By the way, some people responded that they came to the opposite result. We were for you at Hedi, a shoemaker from Frankfurt who can repair almost everything made from leather. So be sure to stop by if you ever have the chance to visit Frankfurt. I use the Canon EOS R for almost 2 years now, whether for portraits, videos or landscape, a super camera. The face tracking is not quite as good as with the one of the Canon EOS R6, but for everyday photography, just great. If you're looking for a good video camera, you won't make a mistake with either of these cameras. Just think of the crop factor when shooting in 4K. Both take great photos anyhow. Finally, we take a look at the image stabilizer of both bodies. The optical image stabilizer was also activated on the lens. It would be nonsense not to do it. Canon promises up to 8 stops in combination with the Canon EOS R6, measured on the RF 24 to 105mm f4L lens. And we wanted to try that out right now. What do you think about the image? Sharp or not sharp? Tell me about your experience. You can download this and many more files from the link provided. Unfortunately, the Canon EOS R does not have an integrated image stabilizer. However, both models have a digital IS in video mode, which heavily crops the material but offers you much smoother shots. Let's call it a day. The Canon EOS R has a clear advantage. It is much cheaper, fits very well in the hand, feels better, has a better monitor and head display. Not to forget the low light performance, but there is no integrated image stabilizer. Clear disadvantages in my opinion: only one SD slot, no thumb controller, the 4K crop, and the autofocus is not quite as fast as with the Canon EOS R6. The Canon EOS R6 costs significantly more but offers a second SD slot, a thumb controller, a spinning wheel, the integrated image stabilizer and 4K video without a crop factor, with up to 60 frames per second. Now you already spent over 700 euros more and are punished with 20 megapixels, which I personally think is clearly too few pixels, since I consider 24 megapixel to be a minimum for 2020. If you now could argue that the low light performance would be significantly better, then you could maybe even let that pass. But in my opinion, that's not the case. Photographers would now tell me again that the video function doesn't matter because they only take pictures. Yes, and whoever advertises with 4K 60 but then leaves out all the additional options like all eye but demands 700 euros more, or through it as only software, makes no sense in my point of view. But there is slow motion in full HD with autofocus. After all, I personally stay with my Canon EOS R and would save the money for the Canon EOS R6 or directly take the Canon EOS R5. There's also a comparison between the Canon EOS R and the Canon EOS R5 on my channel. I'm curious what you have to say about these cameras. Which camera do you like more? What else have I forgotten that speaks for one or the other camera? Thanks a lot for the sponsor of this video, which is a rental store from Munich called objektivvermietung.de. All the best from Frankfurt and see you very soon und ein frohes neues Jahr 2021. Tschüss!